Hello, everyone. Welcome to People, Nature, Big Ideas. Today, I'm joined with the one and only environmentalist advocate, Patty Gonya.
Hello, Rhonda. Hi, listeners.
Oh, thank you for joining me. I'm so happy that you're here.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here too. I'm happy to be sitting down. We just did a crazy big event for hundreds of people.
And you're dancing out there.
You know, we were attempting to dance.
Shaking it. You were dropping it low.
Thank you so much.
Like it was
my
hot.
knees can feel it.
Yeah, I believe it. Your ankles probably can too, because those boots were not small. Oh, I'm looking forward to you being here, and I'm really looking forward to us talking here on People, Nature, Big Ideas. And there are a lot of things that we've discovered that we share an affinity for, things that we truly love around the values that we share around the environment, about our identities, about our personhood, and all of the things. So we're going to be able to share that with this amazing audience that's with us today. But for those folks who don't know you, you have a streaming show coming.
Yes, we do.
You are the co-founder of Outdoorist Oath.
Outdoorist Oath. Yeah, it's a mouthful.
Outdoorist Oath.
It's a mouthful.
Excellent. And that's a nonprofit, right? Mm-hmm. And it does what? It gets BIPOC and LGBTQ plus IA?
Yeah, it gets anyone from underrepresented communities outdoors, better access to nature, which is something I think you and I can get down with. 100%. Probably a lot of listeners can get down with. I think we want to believe in a more diverse and beautiful and better outdoor future for everyone.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that that's just like the very surface stuff. So we're going to get in a little bit deeper in this conversation.
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Our listening audience knows that I'm a really big fan of origin stories. I always like to understand, like, where did we come from and how did we get to this place? And so I don't know how many people out there are familiar with your story, but I think it's really important for giving us a deeper understanding for why any of us do what we do. And recently we were talking and you were sharing a story about your journey from disconnection to connection, from hatred to celebration. And if you don't mind, I'd love for you to tell folks about that journey.
Sure.
Can you do that?
Yeah. Well, I am born and raised in Nebraska, which is a very beautiful place to be from. I'm really glad I'm from there. It was a really hard place to be a queer kid. I grew up in one of my first safe spaces ever was nature, was my backyard.
Yeah.
And I just remember feeling so connected to nature and so just beautifully at peace. And I mean, you know, I would be performing Cats the Musical, jumping off of like my playground set in the backyard. And it's crazy how your life's a setup for your life. I feel like I'm doing the same stuff, just with a few more people around me nowadays.
Yeah, and a little bit more hair, I bet.
Yeah, a little more hair, and still just being very gay outside. But yeah, I loved Nebraska, and I love being from there. And in middle school, it really came to the realization that I was queer and that I was different, and yeah, really the outdoors, which was, again, that place that I loved, like started to become this different thing in my life via sports and Boy Scouts. It became this space for masculinity only and for achievement and for success. And I think into high school too, like my disconnection with nature grew further and further as I started to pick up a camera and did photography and felt like, you know, it was like photography is my first career too. So even, you know, through college, post-college, I was in nature all the time, but I felt like I was always taking from nature, that I was using nature, that I was extracting from nature. I never really felt like I was giving anything back. So yeah, it was a crazy kind of like falling from grace to have this beautiful childhood and then to just be hit with like so much homophobia in the outdoors via Boy Scouts or via sports teams I was a part of that I wasn't competitive enough to be on, or just via even just like, just the way we're raised nowadays to just be disconnected from nature. And so in college, I decided to come out and came out as gay, and it was a really important thing for me to accept myself as gay. What I wish I would have known then that I know now is that conditional love is not love. There were a lot of people in my life then that told me they loved me still, but only if I never painted my nails, never did drag, never transitioned, never was friends with any gay people, because they were like, we're your friends, we're your people, you don't need anyone else. So I wish I would have had more perspective, but I'm thankful for that now. And I think, through this queer journey, I think I've realized that like the coming out experience is not just for queer people. I think we experience it uniquely, but I think everyone in life has something to come out about. And coming out is living in your power and living in your truth and being true to who you are. Yeah, there's so much to share in a life story, but like, I feel like post-college, when I was doing my first career as a photographer, I really felt deeply like something was off or wrong. And I think that's when I realized that I needed to come out again from not just being gay, but just to really realizing my queerness, which queerness for me, I advocate for a broad definition of queerness. And for any listeners that are like, what's the difference? I think that, being gay, quote unquote, my understanding of it was just being attracted to other men. For me, queerness is this removal of boxes and barriers and boundaries of gender, of expression, of self, an acceptance that the only real thing in life is constant transition, is constant change. And I think we see that in nature all the time. So through a quarter life crisis that happened at like age 26, I started getting really into backpacking, and I was backpacking on the Continental Divide Trail, decided to pack these ridiculous 6-inch high heels into the backcountry on a whim, and was just like, I'm gonna go, walk some like steps in some high heels at the summit, la la la. My friends were like, we'll make a little video, posted this video online to this joke Instagram account. We thought that like 3 of our friends would follow, and woke up the next day to a couple million views on a video. And yes, we're all familiar with the viral moments, but the thing that really stuck with me was like getting messages from queer people across the nation being like, I am a queer park ranger in Yosemite National Park. Like, could we maybe do a pride? And then, the next year we did a pride in Yosemite and like 25 people showed up, but now cut to last year and there was over 500 people that were at this pride. And like, this is not, a pride that's open to the public. This is a pride for park staff that work in the park that never normally get a pride. So yeah, I think that like this journey with Patty has really been the most crazy sugary snack that I've eaten on my like trail of life. That's just like jet propelled me to so much more self-discovery. And yeah, that's like the origin story, if you will. But yeah, it's been a beautiful journey, and I feel like it's only just beginning. So the rest is still unwritten.
Yeah, the best is yet to come too.
The best is yet to come. It is.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. There was some language that you used that really resonated with me, and that was the word whim. In '91, I was living in Chicago, and I had like a romantic relationship that was ending, and I had a dear friend named Amy. Shout out Amy if you're listening, Amy Masterson. And we were having drinks, and she said, I forgot to tell you, I'm moving to Utah. Oh my God, you can't go, you're kind of my rock.
Yeah.
She said, well, I'm leaving in 2 weeks. Do you want to come? Yeah, I do.
Hell yes.
I do. I didn't know really what it meant. I knew we were going to a ski resort, and she called the ski resort and she said, hey, I've got another friend that's coming. Do you have space for her? I'm like, yeah, she can get a job too.
Perfect.
And I went out there, and I gotta say, this was in 1991. And I think I was the only Black girl for miles and miles and miles. And I think I was the only Black girl on the mountain. And
wait, are you telling me there's barriers to people of color accessing the outdoors?
Crazy!
That's crazy. Even in the 90s? Oh my God.
I know.
Especially in the 90s.
Especially in the 90s, right? It was like a really wild place to be. And I was so kind of naive. I just thought that because I was from the DC area, because I had been living in Chicago, I just thought Black people were everywhere, right? I had no concept of the geographical divide. I had no concept of the outdoor divide, where we belong, where we don't belong, and who decides that for us, right?
Totally.
And so when I got there, there was that visual narrative where it was just only these very attractive white men and women who were the owners of the outdoors. For many of the people, like, it was an unintentional kind of design, more or less.
And
then for
intentional.
others,
Yeah.
it was incredibly intentional, right?
Yeah.
And so it was one of those things where when I got out there and saw that I was the only one, you're damn straight I was going to be fantastic, because I wasn't going to say, see, this is why they're not here. They don't understand. And what I really realized during that time was that I am nature. And that was probably the third time in my life where I realized my relationship with nature was everything, and it's something that you cannot take away from me, right? Nature is for all of us. And
Totally.
so I think at least over the last 8 to 10 years, we're starting to see some changes in terms of how we talk about the outdoors and who the voices of the outdoors are. And we're starting to see that representation and coming out is showing up in different ways. There are some people who would say to me, like, man, that's just stuff that white people do. Like, why are you doing this? Why are you sleeping on the ground in the woods? Why are you climbing these mountains? Why are you, mountain biking and doing all of these things? And I would say to them, like, whose story are you listening to?
Yeah.
This is my opportunity to claim, and you can come along with me. And so people are starting to come along, and I'm really grateful for that.
I love that
so
much.
It's really interesting. And I think that self-discovery is something that nature gives us. It's not until you get out there and you have that one moment, you hear that one bird, you see that one waterfall, that stream, those particular flowers that you'll never see in somebody's yard, and the way the sun rises is so different, right?
And nature's magic.
It is magic. I could go on and on and on, and I gotta
Same girl.
bring it in. I want to go back to something that I saw on your website about your activism, and I'm gonna quote this. It is, Patty's drag itself is a personal journey of self-identity, sustainability, and queering traditional masculine outdoor narratives to explore the natural world. And so for me, it was, I guess maybe I was melanating the outdoor world, particularly in the snow space. And you're queering, right, traditional masculine. And so I think that when you were sharing your story, that's something that really resonated with me. And so what I would like for you to do is share a little bit more about the overlap between identity and belonging and environmentalism, being out in the outdoors, and maybe you can talk about the way that you are seeing the narratives change, the way that you are seeing the definition change about outdoors and who it really belongs to.
These are good questions, Rhonda.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so much to cover. I feel like a good place to start is that I think the traditional narrative for queer people is oftentimes to run to big cities for acceptance. Like these metropolitan environments, like the New York City of it all, the LA of it all, are going to be safe spaces for us. And I think now more than ever, especially after the last 10 years, there are more queer people doing the exact opposite and running into the forest. And that feels very special to me. It also feels like a very forgotten group of people, like how many queer people are outdoors and are working in our national park system, are scientists doing research in obscure places, are people everywhere in every different outdoor community. That's really beautiful. I think that's a sign of progress. I also think whenever we have progress, we have backlash, and that's especially what we're experiencing now. We can dive into that later, but I think also that, like, when we think about the environmental movement, it's more diverse than ever, and also it has further to go than ever, because the environmental movement is so white, it is so straight, it is so cis, it is so privileged, and I really want a more diverse environmental movement along with a more diverse outdoors. And I think we have an opportunity as queer people, or as like people from underrepresented communities, to take our social justice skills that we work so hard to build and to build our communities and apply it to the environmental justice space and vice versa. And that's what we mean when we say like intersectional environmentalism. Like it can seem like this really heady word, but really what it is it's realizing that you can't advocate for the planet without advocating for equal rights of people. Like, because we are nature, just like you said, it's all interconnected. And so we need to fight for equitable human ecosystems if we want to fight for a more equitable and just earth and environment. And that's what I believe deeply in. That's what I like work to try to do every day. And how I do that is just trying to like look at like what is the work in front of my feet that I can do. It is not these big marching and rally moments. It are these little daily differences, and oftentimes it's just being a freaking kind person and just trying to like have empathy for other people. I think we forget how important that is. But yeah, I think that's kind of like where it intersects with environmentalism, and I think it's really beautiful to see the change happen in the outdoor, quote unquote, outdoor space. But also I think that we're at a really interesting point of this change where the community leaders are spearheading so much change. And I'm not even looking at myself. I don't consider myself a community leader. I consider myself like an organizer at best. But I'm seeing so many of these leaders and organizers do so much work to diversify the outdoors, and an outdoor industry completely not support them. And an outdoor industry completely care about diversity, but not care at all about equity or inclusion. They want the diverse people there. They want the me on an ad campaign. They want the you working behind the scenes for the diversity X, Y, and Z, but it stops there. I do not see C-suites changing. I do not see anything actually changing. If anything, it's gotten worse. And I think it's become more performative than ever. It's a whole road we can go down. But the thing is that like for a person in the outdoors, like what this looks like, and I think how we can take action on this is the outdoor industry is not here to build a more equitable outdoors. Individual people at companies and brands are there to make change happen, but it's on us because the outdoor community is going to make the difference. And every single listener here can affect greater change than the outdoor industry ever could. And that's what we need more of. We need more people stepping up and being the change they want to see in the outdoors, being the change they want to see in the environmental movement, leaning into what they are good at, applying it to what they care about in this world, and this world will never be the same.
So
you got me on my right there.
Listen. But the thing is, like, you're actually tapping into an upcoming episode, which is very much about that. You really hit a nerve for me around the C-suite of all of these large organizations and how those things aren't changing, and the Green 2.0 report that has been kind of monitoring and actively putting a reflection on these organizations. Like, listen, you said that you wanted to do this thing, but we've got the numbers, we've got the evidence, and nothing has changed. We saw a huge uptick in 2020 when the whole world was changing at a very different rate, and everybody was going out there and hiring folks to diversify their organizations in the environmental sector, and now we've seen a precipitous decline. Yeah. And it was a flash in the pan, right? Everybody was feeling it, and then they decided they didn't need to feel it anymore because everything was normal again.
Well, Rhonda, we did it. We checked the box.
Right.
Like, can't we just move on?
Right.
Like, why are we so stuck on this? You know, if we just, ally to me isn't a verb. It doesn't require action. It's just a title I get to pin on myself. Come on, babe. I think that when it comes to talking about like building a more diverse future, I don't know about like any listeners out there, but I can get really stuck in thinking that the future is not going to be that great, and that there's a lot of like doom and gloom in this world. But I honestly think that that's part of the recipe that people in power use to make us believe that we can't affect change. And I think the number, like, inaction is an active choice, right?
100%.
Like, doing nothing is doing something. So if we want it to be different, we have to be the ones to do it. It might sound preachy, but like, power to the people. Like, it is the people that change things. Always. Always. It's not institutions. It's not these people in C-suites. It's us. So what do we want to see? What do we want to do? What can we build? What do we need? Let's do it.
100%. But I do feel like I need to shout out, the people whose we use that expression, whose shoulders I stand upon. And I think about the original, the OG environmental justice folks.
Which are all people of color, indigenous people, queer people, always. Yeah, people from not the first world, but from the quote unquote third world that we think less of, that are literally holding together like 98% of the biodiversity in this world.
100%. And I feel, there's this really limiting ideology that is so pervasive that says that unless you have X degree and this and that and this and that, you're not qualified to run these organizations. So we really need to kind of step away. Everybody stop. Reimagine, what is it exactly that we're trying to achieve here?
Totally.
And who best to drive us there? And people get uncomfortable. There are these people who feel so threatened, like we're actually taking something away from them, when in fact we're enhancing their well-being. When you do better, I do better.
Totally.
Right? That's really what equity means. That's what collective consciousness is, right? But a lot of people are really afraid of that. They want to stay in this individualistic, capitalist entrenched, extractive kind of way of being. And they are so afraid to step away from it.
Well, all I know is that ecosystems that don't have diversity die. And
sure do.
ecosystems that embrace diversity, that embrace difference, thrive.
100%.
So what future do we want?
What future do we want? God, we could talk for hours. What to do? So I wanna get back on my track and talk about you as a creative. You're also a musician and you're an artist. You talked about your photography as being kind of your first career. And I would love for you to share a little bit about art and expression, especially as it relates to the environment, how it plays into your activism as well. And so you might remember when we were first talking about this episode, I wanted to open with a poem that is my favorite poem. I don't read a lot of poetry. For some reason, I feel like I should be ashamed of that. I don't know why, but it's true. And so like my favorite poem is written by a person named Nayyirah Waheed. I wanted to, instead of start the conversation off with that poem, I wanted to at least introduce you a little bit so folks who didn't know you before can know you a little bit now. But I wanna read the poem and then I wanna ask you for your reaction.
Great.
Okay. And so, gosh, if we wanted to, people of color would burn the world down for what we have experienced, are experiencing, but we don't. How stunningly beautiful that our sacred respect for the earth, for life, is deeper than our rage.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I hear that poem, I think so much about like injustices in this world. And I think injustices happen to so much more of us than we think. I mean, I think any American living in America is completely gaslit by our government, by the systems of power. And I think, we all have so much rage that we're all kind of like, let's burn it all down, right? I think something really powerful that I've learned from an incredible elder in my life and one of the Outdoors Oath co-founders, Jose Gonzalez, always speaks to this concept of metaphorically prescribed burning things and how, in his words, it's not time to burn it all down, but it is time to prescribe burn what isn't working to make room for some new growth.
I can get on board with that.
And I very much feel like this rage that we're feeling, like there are a lot of systems we should be burning down, not just to burn the whole forest down, but because nature knows that fire has become vilified in a way, when really fire is a very important part of every ecosystem in so many forests to sustain new life and new growth. And so I think a lot about how lucky we are that those that we have treated less than human and like less than just like life filled on this earth. How lucky and how amazed I am at how people can take pain and turn it into art, and can take frustration and disconnection and turn it into community, can take hate and turn it into love. I think that is literal magic on planet Earth. I think that's a huge form of environmentalism and just social justice that we don't think about that often. And I think that I wish we knew our potential to affect change more in this world. And I think a lot of us are starting to feel our ability to affect change, and I want us to chase that.
Yeah, no, I get with that, and I think that what you were just describing is the ultimate case, an example of resilience. The fact that we haven't burned it all down. I feel on behalf of myself and my ancestors, I have every reason to. But I am also a spiritual being. We are all elements. We are stardust.
Yeah, yeah, we are, baby.
And this is a part of this is who we are, right? And so I think because of that tremendous love, because of that tremendous respect, we're not going to let these ne'er-do-wells, if you will, all the people that are upholding the isms, every ism, we're not going to let them win, and they won't. And when you have folks who are operating from a scarcity mindset, people who are operating just purely based on fear, right? The most dangerous people in the world to me are the people who are backed into a corner.
Totally.
You know, and that's how a lot of these people are feeling. They know that they're outnumbered and they're
Totally.
doing everything they can right now to
Totally.
hold on to their scraps. And it's like, you know
Totally.
what? Y'all are going to burn yourselves down. We just have to watch. You know,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
we lose a lot in the process. So how do we kind of keep ourselves protected from that? So I think we are resilient, we are vibrant, we are abundant, frankly, even in spite of it all.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think how we can activate on that is to know we have each other. Like, I don't know about you, but the trail feels a lot more scary when I think I'm on it alone.
Yeah.
And capitalism and the powers that be and people in power want us to feel like we are all on these individual trails when really there's a lot more of us there. And so I think the answer is to collaborate, is to find community, is to take action together. There's been nothing that I've done in my career that I've ever done like alone.
Yeah.
And nothing that I've ever done alone that's ever been memorable. Or
Or
like,
fun.
Yeah, or fun, yeah. So I'm like, we need more community. We definitely need more joy in this space. I feel like we're definitely building that, but I think we need to collaborate, which is hard work, but is important.
For sure, for sure. I want to talk a little bit too, staying on this art frame, about music.
Sure.
And there's this really beautiful song. There are many beautiful songs, don't get me wrong, but there's one in particular, and I've watched the video for it a few times. And it's you and another musician who I wasn't familiar with when I was watching. And
Yeah, Quinn Christopherson.
Quinn, okay.
Yeah. Quinn's amazing.
And Yo-Yo Ma, the cellist who I've been familiar with for a really long time, mostly because of my dad. And it's absolutely stunning. And the cinematography, the background, and of course the music itself. And so before we talk about the song, I would love for you to paint a picture for everybody who hasn't seen this video, who isn't familiar with it. It's a song called Won't Give Up.
You got it.
But tell us who you're with and where you are.
Yeah, love it. Yeah, so the song is called Won't Give Up. It's a song about climate justice and social justice, which honestly, when I hear a song about climate and social justice, I'm like, wah, wah. But I think it's a pretty cool song. And I got to write it alongside Quinn Christopherson, who's an amazing trans indigenous musician who's from Alaska, and Yo-Yo Ma, who's an amazing cellist. Yeah, the song, when the project was just me, was originally a requiem for a glacier, what would be performed at like a funeral for a glacier. It was about giving up. It was about saying, well, no one is gonna give this glacier its funeral processional, so I guess I will. And I was gonna go up to Alaska and like film this whole thing myself and like this whole like black outfit and give it a funeral, you know? And like, it would have been dramatic and honestly like kind of still cool. But when I started collaborating with Yo-Yo and especially with Quinn, you know, Quinn's indigenous lens really helped me understand that if we give up, they win. And what indigenous knowledge has always known is that we are not separate from nature, we are nature. What indigenous knowledge has always known is the power of collaboration, and that hope is so powerful. And so we decided to flip the script and write a song about not giving up. And so the song turned into Won't Give Up. And we took this song and went up to Alaska, where Quinn is from, and filmed this music video up on these glaciers that are so stunning and are so sadly on their last life. They are calving, which means there's 200, 300 foot walls of them that are either falling off into the ocean or falling down and melting and becoming a river. So it was really strikingly beautiful to be in that place. It was also really hard. And on top of that, a weird life coincidence, but my dad's originally from Alaska. He was born in Alaska, and he died 7 years ago. We decided to take his ashes back up there, me and my brother, and we scattered his ashes in front of Holgate Glacier, and we just happened to realize that Holgate Glacier would be the perfect place to record this video at. And so, one, it was like an important place for me, and complicated because I have a very complicated relationship with family, but also it was really striking to see these glaciers have gone back miles since I've been there. And miles is not an exaggeration, miles.
That's wild.
And so, yeah, we did this song about where we're at, and is not just trying to be like, hey, no worries, we're gonna get through this, we won't give up, but like, we won't give up, and what we got is each other, and like we have an opportunity to make the change we want to see in this world.
I won't give up for a minute, never giving up on you, never giving up on you. I won't give up.
I believe that like art has a big impact and ability to make change in social and environmental justice movements. I think if we look back at every social rights movement, environmental justice movement, song has been critical to the movement. I mean, think about the civil rights movement in a song like We Shall Overcome,
100%.
you know? So I think there's a lot of power there, and I think we wanted this song to be accessible for everyone to sing it and for them to make it their own. And so we've gotten to take it to climate rallies around the world, and it's just been very special to get to almost like carry that torch together.
Yeah, that's really remarkable. I'm sure that people who are listening are like Googling right now. So for those of you, I'm just going to let you know, we're going to put the notes and the liner notes and a link to the song in case you
Perfect.
aren't looking for it.
Perfect.
And I would be in a lot of trouble if I didn't ask you this question from my producer, Tom. He watched the video a couple of times, and he wanted to know how you all got out there onto those beautiful rocks and glaciers, or just at the edge of the glacier, right on the water. It's so chilling. The coloring,
It's literally chilling. We were literally freezing.
I know, I believe it.
Can I tell you something, Rhonda?
Yeah.
Like literally, what no one tells you about Alaska, it's a rainforest. So like it be raining all the time. And so yeah, how we got out there, I mean, because we were like, kind of the weather was not, Mother Nature was like not cooperating with us for a while.
She's like, earn it,
Yeah,
girl.
yeah, exactly. She was like, you want this? You're gonna have to go through my gauntlet. But we, Yo-Yo Ma has a single engine rule, so he doesn't get on anything with a single engine on it.
Okay.
So planes were out of the picture, helicopters out of the picture. So we literally had to only take boats and or to like drive or hike to these places. And so we took a boat to one of the glaciers that we were filming on the shore, and it was like this crazy little like 30-minute-hour weather window where like it wasn't kind of raining, but otherwise it was pouring that whole day. And
Oh
I'm
my
like,
God.
I'm like in a dress and like a full wig, full beat of makeup, and I'm like, by the way, I can't get wet, crew. So they were like doing amazing things to keep me dry, and
And
it
what
was
about
amazing.
the cello? Like,
Yeah, the cello. So you know,
Can't get
a
wet.
casual $1 million cello. You know, like
no biggie.
like literally $1 million cello. That also can't get wet. Here we are. We're so smart, and so we got a really beautiful weather window with Yo-Yo, and we're able to hike out to this spot on Exit Glacier, and it was just beautiful and again painful, but it was such a powerful experience to get to do that with them, and yeah, I think that collaboration like that just made that piece of art so much better.
Yeah, I believe it. Well, Tom is like a huge Yo-Yo Ma fan. I think I said that, and he has this like vision in his mind of the two of you walking and just talking as you're getting out to the site where you're going to shoot. And he wants to know what you were talking about.
Oh my gosh, this is where I get to share some of my favorite Yo-Yo Ma tea. So
Yo-Yo
Yo-Yo is the silliest, the goofiest man ever.
Love it.
Literally, he's exactly who you think he is. He's like literally Mr. Rogers, but a cellist. And yeah, we were talking about all sorts of things. He wanted to learn some gay slang, so me and Quinn taught him "sleigh boots the house down," and he wouldn't stop saying it on set. I had a backup wig, and Yo-Yo put on my backup wig and wouldn't take it off. Literally. It was just like complete clownery. So
I like
he
that.
is like this incredible artist, and he's also just such a goofball. So
And
it was very
human
fun.
being, just
And
a
human being.
regular
And a
old human being who happens to be talented. One of the things that you were touching on too is, you know, the power of storytelling. So storytelling comes through songs. I think it comes through visual art, and of course it comes through story. I think podcasts can almost be a version of storytelling, right?
Absolutely.
This episode, I want us to start talking about pride and safety. And this is airing in June for Pride Month. And from my perspective, Pride is a multifaceted affair. You know, and I think it includes all of us. I think that it's an opportunity for the queer community and those of us who love you, who are related to you, who are lovers with you, or friends with you. It's for all of us to celebrate together, going back to that collectivism and connection and community. And then there, of course, are the people who take issue with it, people who have a lot of beef, and they have an issue with the queer community. They have an issue with me as a Black person. They have an issue with you as a drag queen, and everything that we represent, right? And so this next little bit in talking about safety and pride, it's about how belonging is not just about our day-to-day, but it's also when we are outside, when we are in the outdoors, when we're on those trails or on our mountain bikes or just sitting by a lake, for Pete's sake. And the pride that you carry and I carry in terms of like who we are and how we show up in this world. And I know for me, I think about pride. I am very, very proud to be the product of Sam and Ann Chapman. I don't know that I appreciated it so much growing up, but now that my dad is also passed on and my mom is, you know, she's going to be 89 at the end of this month, and the things that I'm so proud to be their child. I'm really also proud of the triumphs that I've overcome in my life that have been numerous, you know, and I look at myself in the mirror and I'm just like, oh, you're still here and this is amazing.
Totally.
Life is so rich. And then I also think about my pride just being a Black woman. There's really a lot to kind of stand on and keep my head up and put my chest out, you know, which I didn't always feel growing up, but I do very much now, you know. And so I wanted to hear from you what pride means for you and all of your intersectionality and the connection between pride and the outdoors. I think we've touched on some of it, but not just for the queer community entirely, but just your full self. Like, how do you live a full life?
Yeah, totally. Those are great questions.
Yeah.
I think you said it. I think pride is for everybody. And it's not just like everyone's invited to celebrate the gays. It's like, there's so much power in having pride for who you are. I think, again, like we have so many different facets that make us who we are. And I think I'm so grateful for Pride as a queer celebration in June to celebrate the distance we've come as a community. But I want us all to feel that pride all year round, and I want us all to feel that no matter who we are. And I think what's really interesting is that like being queer is not hard until like bigots make it hard, you know? Like being Black, you're Black. It's like, it's who you are.
Yeah.
It's not hard until someone makes it hard for you.
Right.
And so I don't take like a victim approach to being queer. Like if anything, it's one of, if not the most special things in my life. But what I wish like people understood is that like, if people have like an issue with queer people or anyone from an underrepresented community and they choose to like be fearful or be homophobic or be racist, that's more of a reflection of them than it is me. And also, I do feel sorry for them because I don't think we're born knowing how to hate. I think it's a taught thing. I think it's something that becomes deeply ingrained, and I think people hate other people because they hate themselves, because they hate their circumstances, because again they've been taught that hate is easier than love, and I hate that for them. I think we have an opportunity to like co-liberate and to work together and to really kind of like fight the actual people who are keeping us all down. I mean, this is an unpopular opinion, but I think there's like no more oppressed people in America right now. Well, it shouldn't be a battle, but like, I think that like white straight men in America are so oppressed by our power systems because we teach them to be so isolated. We teach them to have no connections and no friends and no real sense of community, and that, you know, the only way to survive is to toughen up and harden, and it's all the stuff I was taught. And I know how harmful it is. Like it almost made me hate the world, you know? So I don't want that for anyone.
Yeah.
And so I think like when I think of pride, I think about that it's a chance to just exhale and be proud of who we are and hug each other a little bit tighter. And yeah, it's also just such this weird point of time because in a lot of ways, I think the community has gone leaps and bounds further than I ever thought it would. And also, you know, it's receiving more backlash than ever. Like, I very much dislike that, like, my career choice and my art form has become so politicized. Like, I accept it because to be a queer person is to be political in this world because it is opposing dominant narratives. So I wish it was different, but also, again, I'm so thankful for the chance we have to like all link arms. So yeah, I would just invite everyone to celebrate Pride this year, whether you know a queer person or you don't. And if you don't know a queer person, I think that like making a queer friend is a great place to start because we all need each other. And I think we can all start there.
And I would even argue that if you don't know a queer person, you actually probably do know a queer person.
Yeah, or you might be queer yourself. Who knows?
You might. I
Who
mean,
knows?
that happens often. And so a lot of what you're saying touches on safety too. And so like, you know, speaking about my lived identity and experiences, I just, summer before last, I think it was, or maybe it was last summer, I went to go camping. So it was Juneteenth, and I wanted to grab my dog and for us to just be out. I actually didn't want to even camp, traditional camping. I wanted to stay in a yurt and just be a little bit glam
Amazing.
about it, right?
We love it.
And-
This is our 50s, baby. Come on.
I know, right?
We need a yurt. Give us a yurt.
It's getting harder to get off the ground these days, I'm telling you. But we went out to a place in Virginia. When I say, like, you know, I found the yurt, I thought, oh, let me go to the grocery store and grab a couple of items. And the way I was treated in that store was enough for me to put everything down and walk out. Then I decided to find another place to get a couple of meals to go. And as I'm going down the lane, it's the flags that were everywhere, and a mix of like traditional, you know, stars and stripes, and then the Confederate flags. It was like the non-red carpet. It was the anti-Rhonda carpet, right? And I was followed back to the yurt by a car, and there were just so many things, and I could hear in my ear, you know, some ancestor showed up and said, go home. And so I was supposed to be there for a couple of days, and it just wasn't worth it to me. So Buddy and I just got in the car, and I packed up everything. I didn't care about the money any longer, and I left. And I literally felt like I was being chased out of town by this giant white pickup truck that just kept coming up on my bumper. And I thought, man, I cannot believe this is still happening and that I'm feeling this way. And so when we talk about pride, it's so important for us to have it. But then sometimes we can't be too out. Like, I can't unblack myself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't have something that I can, you know, put on and make it go away. And I wouldn't want to if I could, frankly. So this safety issue is really important for all of us. And I'm curious, like, how you reflect on safety. You talked about going out and bringing your ridiculous shoes to hit that trail and making that was the spark, right, for the viral moment. And now here we are. But other parts of your identity, and when folks in the queer community can't be safe.
Yeah, what's it like? Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that you want to talk about safety. I think safety for me feels, like more relevant than ever for the queer community. I live at a really interesting intersection of safety because for me, like, I'm very visibly queer in like who I am in this world. And also I experienced this crazy shift when I go in and out of drag, of becoming this thing that is oftentimes targeted to this thing that's able to camouflage and become this thing that's a part of these dominant narratives and seen as just like, someone might mistake me for like a MAGA bro just because of like the way I look out of drag. And it's a really interesting experience. There's a lot of privilege in that. There's a lot of opportunity in that. And I think that, yeah, for me, I mean, like my rules around safety are always to just like that there's safety in numbers. Like I really don't like to go places by myself in the outdoors. So I love to be with other people. I especially don't like to be in drag alone in the outdoors unless I truly feel like I'm alone. But I think a lot about like safety beyond the queer community too, for like women in the outdoors and people of color. And I wish we just had a chance as like an outdoor community, and this is completely like not possible, but to just have like a big ass campfire with all of us there, because I guarantee you that people on both sides of the aisle and people who would otherwise, again, like be fearful of each other would really learn to see that like we have more in common than we have apart, and that like there's no reason to like hate each other. Like I really think that like the trick America plays on us all is that fear thing you're talking about. And that feels big when we talk about safety, because I think the tale is all this time is to divide and conquer. And if you can make people fearful of each other, if you can make me afraid of you, well, then you can control both of us. Yeah. And that feels like something that we should have learned by now, but I feel like we really haven't. And that feels important to reflect on this Pride Month, because I think there's a lot of things out there in this world that want us to make us afraid of each other, and we really shouldn't be afraid of each other. And I hate that for both of us, because again, it's like that thing where it's like there's no scarier thing in the world than fearful people who think they're backed into a corner. So safety in numbers is my number one thing. I think so much about just like really the power of places in America that feel safer than others, like where you're not the only Black person on the trail, where I'm not the only queer person on the trail. That feels important. That's why I live where I live, is because I feel a little bit safer there.
Yeah.
And also still happens there, and it's not easy. So it's interesting, and I think safety matters. And I think the way that every single listener can really take action on safety is to invite people, especially people that maybe it would be their first time in the outdoors, no matter who they are, to go outdoors with them. Because there's so much power in like learning something with another person. I think we oftentimes are so fearful of being outside alone, or if we come from a diverse background, that we just never get outside in the first place. So I think everyone can just invite someone outside. Like there's so much power in that. And I think the next thing we can do is just to be like a kind person on the trail, like to not think that like our way is the best way. Like, and I have to check myself with that all the time, you know, like there's a point like just last year where there were people like listening to really loud music on the trail, and it turned out that this music was like not necessarily like American music, it was from a different culture, but I was like, why are they playing music so loud? And then I was like, oh, maybe this is like my whiteness showing up, and like the way they get outside is different than me, and like that's okay, you know? So we're all in progress.
We're all in progress. I know. I just on this note, and then I want to ask a couple of questions to close us out. And I got schooled by a really good friend of mine who's another Black woman. And because I had spent over a decade living in the mountains of Utah and being this like hardcore-ish, you know, mountain person.
Love hardcore-ish. I identify with that.
I had my own definition of hiking, right?
Yeah.
And this friend of mine and I were talking to somebody in a neighborhood in DC who said, oh, you know, we just finished walking along the river. It was a really nice hike. And I was like, you mean it was a nice walk? And my friend was like, if she wants to call it a hike, it's a hike.
Yeah.
Who said?
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And she caught me, you know. Yeah. I had bought in.
Yeah, totally.
I had completely consumed this garbage, and now I'm spitting it back out. And
happens to all of us.
However this person wants to define the fact that they were outside is 100% up to them.
Totally.
I never forget that, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what I talk about when I'm talking about just like the way we're conditioned and raised. Like oftentimes like we're raised so steeped in these systems, we don't even know it. Another example, like the gender binary. Like I consider myself a non-binary person, and I still put binaries on this world all over the place. I'm still like, oh, like boys and girls, men and women. No, like there's way more than that in this world, and nature for sure shows us there's way more than two sexes. I digress. But it's like we our brains are fascinating. Like we have to create these systems and these boxes and these structures because we consume so much information in the day. It's the only way to process. So don't be too hard on yourself. But I think that's a great example of like how, this sometimes we can be so deep in it, we don't even know we're in it.
We don't even
you
know. And
So,
folks, Google ginkgo trees
Oh my gosh,
and
yes.
gender.
Yeah, ginkgo trees are trans icons. I will not get into it here, but they are amazing.
I learned today. So we're going to start to wrap up, and
Great.
we're going to talk about leadership.
Great.
And I hold a position that leadership really means being able to confront challenges head on and strategically. I see you as a leader. I see myself as a leader. And so I want to touch on the fact that we also have to confront these really tough realities. This is a presidential election year, and I am very anxious.
Yeah.
I'm very anxious.
Those are the words.
I'm very anxious, but it's also happening at a time when we have like overlapping environmental crises happening. And I recently heard you use the term ecocide, and I want to get into it for just a moment, because as leaders we're also educating and we're informing the folks who are listening, and so we're sharing here. We're not trying to be Debbie Downers,
right.
But this is what it means, is to talk about the joy and the pain.
Totally.
And so can you talk about ecocide?
Sure.
And maybe some of the implications it might have for the election year, and maybe not.
Yeah, sure. So ecocide is a word that people use to describe a species or a thing killing itself. I think that when we think about saving this planet, we need to remember that nature is going to be just fine. Nature is going to find a way to move on, and nature will find a way to course correct us. Simple definition is a species killing itself and also killing the planet. People would relate it a lot to genocide. That's kind of where the word comes from. And I think right now we're facing not just genocide in this world, but also ecocide. And we're facing it at a really interesting time where we are factually above 1.5 centigrade globally. Every day, for the past 365 days, the ocean temperature has been hotter than it's been the day before. These are unbelievably catastrophic changes that will affect all of us. We have no idea what we are in for. Every scientist is screaming, and the alarm bells are constant. And also, we are humans, and we are here right now. And this planet and where we are is the life that's right in front of us today. And so I think we have a choice to really, again, be that change we want to see in the world, to still have joy, because a world without any joy, that's not a world I want to fight for.
Amen.
And I think we have a chance to treat each other differently. The leadership structures that we've created in America no longer serve us. That's something that needs to be prescribed burned. And I think that we need to stop looking at people like a president or like even their people to save us. Like, yes, we need these people at a systemic level because they hold keys to way bigger changes than any of us can ever do. But we need systems change. And that's a lot easier to say than to do. But I think what it looks like on a local level is investing locally at your political level to vote locally, politically, for people that you see represent a better and more diverse future. I think what that looks like is supporting your local economy and local ecosystem better, being connected to this planet more, shopping more locally, like shopping with truly like your local farmers, and like learning to really survive at a more community level. Because I'm not a doomsdayer, but I am a climate realist. And my optimism is grounded in reality. Again, that like, if we can dream up this world, we can dream up another. And so I think, I look at like the Afrofuturism movement as like a big North Star.
Amazing.
Of like, we can dream something different. It's time to do that. And for anyone that's not familiar with Afrofuturism, it's this amazing concept that's come out of like the Black community of creating a future that's often portrayed in like sci-fi, but of a different and oftentimes like alternate universe where like maybe white people were the slaves, maybe black people like are like what if the roles were changed? What would happen, you know? And also like what if we co-liberated? Like what if we truly worked together, you know? And I'd be curious to hear your take on Afrofuturism.
Well, you know, when I think, so I don't disagree with anything that you shared, but when I think about Afrofuturism, like right now I'm reading a book by N.K. Jemisin called The Fifth Season. Amazing. And I always think about Octavia Butler. I think she's kind of, for some of us, kind of the mother of Afrofuturism.
Yeah.
And she's, you know, a very prominent Black writer for science fiction. I think that the power of Afrofuturism also includes the fact that Black people are in it.
Totally.
And so we have been written out of
100%.
a lot of the existing science fiction. And so it's really important to make sure that we're not written out of the narrative. So then let us tell the story of the future that we want to see.
Totally.
And it is one that includes everybody. But you're right, the power dynamics do shift. Things are very, very different. And I think that's like a balm, you know, for our spirit, for our soul. We just want to make sure that we're still here.
Totally.
And it's really important to me.
Yeah.
I want to close out a little bit. We've been talking a lot, and I'm so grateful. I know today has been a very big day for you.
No, it's been great.
It's been a lot of fun, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, and I've been observing, and I love it so much. I think we actually started leading into what I wanted to ask you about. So I guess I want to close with, you already kind of started giving us a call to action about voting local, buying local, supporting our local ecosystems, because that really is where the money matters, and that's really where the decisions that we have more direct control over actually exist. So that's really where I agree with you, where a lot of the power lies. But is there one closing note that you want to share, any kind of call to action? I think for me, what I took away from this conversation was about, if you have a friend or a colleague who's never gone on a hike, reach out to them.
Totally.
If you find, you look in your immediate circle of friends and family and there is not a queer person there, find one, but not in a tokenizing way, right? That's the thing. But I feel so confident that in our workplaces, regardless of the sector of work that you're in, there is a queer community.
There's gay people everywhere.
Everywhere, y'all are everywhere. And I think we're all a little gay.
We're all gay.
I mean, come on.
We are. In a way of like, it's expansive. It's not about like who we're choosing to have sex with. It's we're queer in that we all look at the world with unique perspectives.
Totally.
And for me, like my definition of queerness is, and for me, this is so deeply rooted in nature, but queerness is survival. Like when I see a tree in a forest, like turn this way to have found light and then have the huge branch chopped off because of this thing that happened, and that it finds a way to survive and move over here and find light again. I'm like, what's up, queer tree? You know? I'm like, that is queerness. And I really want queer people, allies, to see that, like, you know, we have survived a lot. And I think there's a lot worth living for. And I want that broad definition of queerness for us all to feel that, because I think we all are really working really hard to be who we are.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you so much for your time. I'm so glad that you gave it all to me.
Thank you so
we were
much.
able to have this conversation. Yes. I am just going to close out the show and just say People, Nature, Big Ideas is produced by the Trust for Public Land in partnership with Pretty Good Productions. Our executive producer is Thomas Clayton Miller. Our producer is Vanessa Martin, and our associate producer is Alyssa Morley. Our theme song was produced by Tall Black Guy Productions. And if you like the show, please leave us a rating on iTunes and maybe mention us to a friend or two. Thank you again for listening, and we'll see you the next time. Patagonia, so much love for you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's an honor. Okay, peace out, everybody.
Bye.